Imagine walking into a room. Just think about that very first second you cross the threshold.
Right.
Like maybe it's a high-stakes board meeting or a crowded networking event or, just a dinner party with acquaintances.
Yeah, any setting, really.
Exactly. Before you introduce yourself, before people even know your name, before you've uttered a single syllable, you've already changed the atmosphere. You've altered the literal, measurable energy of that space.
It's a really striking visual to start with, because we are so conditioned to think our impact begins, the moment we open our mouths and start delivering our well-rehearsed pitch.
Right. The words.
Yeah, but the reality of human behavior is that your introduction happens the fraction of a second you become visible. I mean, your baseline state has already been broadcasted.
Okay, let's unpack this, because in this deep dive, we are exploring a set of insights regarding personal presence, identity, and this concept of the energy you wear. And our mission today is to deconstruct why genuine presence isn't just about loud confidence. We want to look at the actual mechanics of how you can intentionally carry yourself with clarity and purpose in absolutely any room you enter.
Which is such an important skill.
It really is. But we need to start by defining what we actually mean by energy. Because let's be honest, it's a word that gets thrown around a lot in somewhat mystical ways.
Yeah, that is a crucial distinction to make right away. When we talk about the energy you wear, we are not talking about some invisible mystical aura or, a woo-woo concept.
Right.
We are talking about a tangible biological and psychological force. It's a relentless stream of communication happening through your micro-expressions, your breathing rate, the tension in your shoulders, and your physical cadence.
So it's very physical.
Absolutely. People feel and respond to these cues long before their conscious brains ever start to parse your vocabulary.
Which totally flies in the face of what so many of us are taught about commanding a room. I mean, there's this pervasive misconception that the most present person is simply the loudest one, right?
Oh, yeah. The classic alpha stereotype.
Exactly. The person aggressively dominating the conversation, just taking up all the oxygen. But if we strip away volume and ego, what is the actual mechanism that makes someone's presence feel intentional?
What's fascinating here is the data surrounding nonverbal reception. You can have two people deliver the exact same words, literally read from the exact same script, and the audience reception will be entirely divergent.
Like, really? Just completely different reactions?
Completely. One person's delivery feels deeply authentic. It grounds the room. The other person says the exact same thing, and it feels hollow or disconnected or even irritating.
Because human brains are basically giant pattern recognition machines, right?
Precisely. I mean, we evolved to assess the safety and stability of other humans instantly. Energy is an immediate communicator because it precedes spoken language in our evolutionary history.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so when someone's presence feels intentional, it's because their external output matches their internal state. They aren't burning calories, trying to perform a persona. Yeah. They are relying on alignment.
Right, there's no friction.
Exactly. And because we are highly attuned to nonverbal cues, we pick up on that internal stability immediately. We feel the lack of cognitive dissonance.
Think about it, and this is for you listening right now. Recall a time you met someone who instantly shifted the atmosphere just by walking in. We've all experienced that, right?
Oh, for sure. It's palpable.
That concept of cognitive dissonance brings us to a really interesting threshold. If this silent language is so powerful, we have to examine the visual cues we are broadcasting. And there is a perspective from our sources today that might ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, this is where it gets a bit controversial.
Right. It's the assertion that appearance is communication. Let me play devil's advocate and push back on this for a second. We all know the trope of the Silicon Valley genius in the hoodie, or the brilliant artist who looks completely disheveled.
The Steve Jobs turtleneck effect.
Exactly. If someone's work is undeniable, or their character is solid, shouldn't that speak for itself? Doesn't obsessing over your wardrobe make this whole concept a bit, superficial?
It's the most common defense against putting effort into presentation, but it actually misunderstands the concept of psychological alignment. I mean, this isn't about expensive clothes making someone valuable.
Okay, so it's not about the price tag.
Definitely not. It is not about luxury brands or superficial status symbols. It's about how intentionality creates perception. The hoodie-wearing CEO is still communicating intentionally.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, their uniform signals a specific kind of countercultural tech identity. The issue arises when there is a disconnect between who you are and how you physically present yourself.
I'm going to try an analogy here based on the text. It feels like dressing without intention, just sort of throwing on whatever is clean or whatever trend you saw on social media,
Yeah.
is less like building a solid foundation and more like trying to play a concert on a guitar that hasn't been tuned.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it. How do you mean?
Well, if the strings are tuned to the wrong key, or they're too tight, every single note you play is going to sound strained. It doesn't matter how technically skilled you are as a musician. The instrument itself is fundamentally out of alignment with the music you are trying to make.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
When you wear clothes that don't reflect your actual identity, your physical body is literally strained.
Yeah.
You're adjusting the collar, you're shifting your weight, you just feel mildly out of place.
That is a brilliant way to visualize the mechanics of it. The psychological term for this is enclothed cognition.
Enclothed cognition.
Yeah, the clothes you wear actually trigger specific neural pathways and alter your psychological state. When confusion internally shows externally, you get that out-of-tune strain you just mentioned.
Wow, so it actually changes your brain.
It does. Conversely, when your appearance reflects high internal standards, a biological shift happens. Your posture literally changes. Your diaphragm opens up, which lowers your vocal resonance. You take up physical space differently.
That's incredible.
Right. You aren't just signaling to the room. You are signaling to your own nervous system that you are prepared and capable.
We've all had that experience where a specific jacket or a well-tailored pair of pants just makes you feel sharper. The friction is just gone.
Exactly.
To get to that state, the text outlines 3 specific questions you can use as a self-audit for your style. Ask yourself, does this reflect my identity? Does this match my energy? Does this align with my vision?
And notice what isn't there.
Right. It doesn't ask, is what everyone else is wearing?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, answering those 3 questions requires a level of self-awareness that honestly a lot of people try to skip. Your wardrobe becomes an extension of your mindset.
It makes the invisible visible.
Yes, it makes your internal standards visible, but you have to actually have those internal standards first.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because we all know people who are impeccably dressed, who hit every single trend, but something about them still feels entirely inauthentic.
Oh, definitely. We've all met that person.
And that highlights the danger of performance versus alignment. Trying to force a confident presence when you don't actually possess the internal stability is exhausting to maintain. It's like wearing shoes that are a size too small.
That is a very visceral comparison. My feet hurt just thinking about it.
Right. Think about the mechanics of it. You put on the shoes because they look incredible,
Yeah.
but they pinch. Every single step requires deliberate, painful effort.
Mm-hmm.
You can't move naturally. And worst of all, a massive chunk of your cognitive bandwidth is now dedicated to thinking about your feet instead of the conversation you're having or the room you're navigating.
Which completely ruins your presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, you start limping. And that is exactly what performance energy looks like to an observer. We can tell you are mentally limping.
And observers register that limp as a lack of safety or trustworthiness. When you are performing confidence, your micro-expressions constantly betray the effort. Identity creates stability, and stability creates presence.
So it's like a chain reaction.
It is. That is the true architecture of a powerful room-shifting dynamic. It is deeply rooted in self-awareness. When you know who you aren't easily swayed by every passing opinion. That internal stability literally leaks out of you into your external environment.
I love that framing, that it just leaks out of you naturally. You don't have to walk into a room and announce, hey, everyone, I am a very grounded and focused person.
Right, that would have the exact opposite effect.
Right. Energy always reveals itself. So how do we actually cultivate the kind of stability that leads positive, commanding energy? It's one thing to understand the psychology, but it's another to build the daily machinery.
Absolutely. The application is key.
So what does this all mean for you listening? We're going to dive into a specific 5-step blueprint from the source material for cultivating this exact presence. Let's look at the first pillar, building inner discipline.
This is foundational.
Now, I know everyone talks about discipline, but how does going to bed on time actually change the energy of a room you walk into at 2 p.m. the next day?
Because your daily habits dictate your biological baseline. Let's look at sleep and emotional control, which are super critical here. If you are chronically exhausted, your body is in a low-grade state of fight or flight.
Just constantly on edge.
Right. You are hypervigilant, your cortisol is elevated, and you are far more likely to be emotionally reactive. Now, imagine a minor crisis happens at work. A delayed flight, a spilled coffee, a lost file.
Things that happen every day.
Exactly. The undisciplined, exhausted person spikes their heart rate and reacts frantically.
And the room absorbs that panic immediately.
Yes. But the person with inner discipline, who has regulated their nervous system through consistent habits, they don't react to the minor chaos. Their resting heart rate stays low. They act as a biological anchor.
A biological anchor, I like that.
Yeah, the rest of the room naturally calibrates to their calmness. That is what people mean when they say someone has great energy. They are really saying, this person's nervous system makes my nervous system feel secure.
Wow.
No amount of expensive tailoring can mask a volatile, chaotic internal state.
That makes so much sense. Discipline is the silent, unglamorous work that creates the highly visible presence. Which brings us to the second pillar, dressing for alignment. We touched on enclothed cognition earlier, but there's a vital distinction to make between dressing for alignment versus dressing for attention.
Very different motivations.
Right. Dressing for attention is fundamentally an act of manipulation. You are putting on a costume to try and extract a specific reaction, usually praise or intimidation, from other people.
And manipulating reactions requires massive energy expenditure. It puts you in a reactive state because your success depends entirely on whether or not the audience gives you the response you want.
Exactly. But dressing for alignment is about reinforcing your own reality. It is an internal anchor. You are choosing pieces that eliminate physical and mental friction, allowing you to focus completely on the task at hand.
It's self-directed.
Yeah, it's a tool for personal reinforcement, not social manipulation.
Which segues perfectly into the third pillar, and this is one that directly challenges how most modern professionals operate.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Pillar 3, slow down your presence. This raises an important question about our cultural obsession with speed. We live in an environment that heavily conflates rushing with importance.
Yes. The subconscious script is, if I am rushing, I must be incredibly busy. If I am incredibly busy, I must be highly valuable.
Exactly. We've all seen that person power walking down the hallway, aggressively typing on their phone, sighing loudly to let everyone know just how overwhelmed they are.
It's like a weird flex. But from an evolutionary standpoint, rushing is actually prey behavior, isn't it?
It is. Darting movements, rapid breathing, and speaking incredibly fast signal anxiety and a lack of control. Calmness creates power.
That is such a huge perspective shift.
Think about the most genuinely influential people. They rarely seem panicked. When you consciously slow down your physical movements, when you take a beat before answering a question, when you walk at a measured pace, you force your parasympathetic nervous system to engage.
You're hacking your own biology.
You are. You tell your own brain, I am safe. I am in control. And because of those mirror neurons we discussed, you broadcast that safety to the entire room. Rushing is a symptom of instability. Measured slowness is a manifestation of absolute stability.
So the standard advice to take a deep breath isn't just about oxygen. It's a structural reset of your biological status in the room. That is fascinating. Okay, pillar number 4, stop seeking validation.
This one is tough for a lot of people.
It really is. Now, this sounds like standard self-help advice, but I want to look at the actual ocular mechanics of what happens when you seek validation, because it physically destroys your presence.
Break down those mechanics for us. What's actually happening with the eyes?
When you are desperate for validation, say you are giving a presentation and you want to know if the boss likes it, your eyes start doing what are called saccadic movements.
Saccadic movements.
Right. You literally dart your eyes around the room, constantly scanning for nods of approval or micro smiles. Your attention is entirely externalized and fractured.
Ah, I see.
To a primate brain, constantly scanning the environment for approval signals that you are low status and unsure of your position in the hierarchy. It is the ultimate energy drain.
That is a phenomenal way to explain it. Confident energy must rely entirely on internal standards, not external applause. If your confidence depends on someone else nodding at you, it's not actually confidence, it's compliance.
Compliance, wow.
Yeah. It means your presence is conditional. When your standards are internal, your gaze is steady. Your voice doesn't adopt that questioning inflection at the end of sentences, you know.
Like when people sound like they're asking a question, even when they're making a statement.
Exactly. Upspeak. Your energy remains an immovable object, regardless of whether the room is cheering for you or completely silent.
Which is incredibly liberating. You just get to exist. Finally, we have the 5th pillar in this blueprint, protect your environment. As much as everything we've talked about starts from within, we do not live in a vacuum. We are highly porous creatures.
We are, and this ties back to emotional contagion. You have to actively curate and protect the people, the spaces, habits, and mindsets that shape you daily.
Because it rubs off on you.
Absolutely. If you spend 40 hours a week in a chaotic, toxic office environment, surrounded by people who constantly complain, panic, or undermine each other, your baseline anxiety is going to shift to match theirs.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah, it takes monumental effort to maintain an intentional, grounded presence in a fundamentally unstable environment.
The analogy I like is that the environment is the soil and your presence is the crop. You can have the best seeds in the world, but if the soil is poisoned, you aren't growing anything worthwhile. So you have to protect the soil.
Exactly. You protect the soil by setting boundaries, by limiting your exposure to chronic negativity, and by actively seeking out environments that demand a higher standard of alignment from you.
So we have our blueprint. Cultivate inner discipline to lower your biological reactivity. Dress to align with your identity, eliminating physical and mental friction. Slow down your physical cadence to signal neurological safety. Stop scanning the room for validation to maintain a steady, high-status focus. And fiercely protect the environment that feeds your mindset.
It's a rigorous framework.
It is. But what is the ultimate functional payoff of doing all this heavy lifting? I mean, is it just to feel a bit more zen, or does this actually move the needle in a tangible way for people?
Oh, it definitely moves the needle. The payoff is the most valuable currency in human interaction, which is trust.
Trust.
Authentic energy creates immediate, instinctual trust. And trust is the gateway to opportunity. This isn't just about feeling good when you look in the mirror. This applies directly to your capacity for leadership, your ability to negotiate in business, the depth of your personal relationships, and your networking efficacy.
People want to be around it.
Exactly. When people subconsciously trust your energy because it is stable and grounded, they want to collaborate with you. They want to invest in your ideas. They want to follow your direction.
Because you've eliminated the cognitive dissonance. When your identity, your internal standards, and your external presentation completely align, you literally stop having to try to stand out.
Yeah.
You don't have to perform anymore.
It's effortless.
Right? Your baseline energy does the heavy lifting for you. And frankly, it stands out naturally because it is incredibly rare to encounter someone who is truly deeply comfortable in their own skin and not just pretending to be.
It is rare and it is unforgettable. We often forget the specifics of what someone said during a pitch or a dinner party, but we never forget the somatic experience of being around them. We remember how their stability made us feel.
That is so true.
Which brings us full circle to that initial visual of walking through the door. People are reading your biological and psychological baseline before you ever say hello.
So if your energy always speaks before you do, wait, let me rephrase that. If your energy always speaks before you do, what is your silent introduction saying to the room right now in the moment when you think absolutely nobody is paying attention? That's something for you to think about as we wrap up this deep dive.